They say daughters grow up to marry men like their fathers, but I saw too much of myself in Bryce Whitmore, and none of it was good. I've lived in the same modest two-bedroom house in Havenbrook, Iowa, for 23 years now. After retirement, my days follow a comfortable pattern. Coffee at 6, newspaper by 7, workshop tinkering until lunch. My neighbors think I'm just another retired mechanical engineer living on a fixed income. And I let them. 16 years ago, when my wife's sedan hit a patch of black ice on Route 27, I became both mother and father to our 11-year-old daughter, Jenna. Those first few years were a blur of grief and logistics, school lunches packed with shaking hands, tearful midnight conversations about loss, fumbling through feminine hygiene aisles at Walgreens. We survived, though. More than survived. We forged something unbreakable between us. That's why my chest tightened when Jenna first brought Bryce Whitmore to Sunday dinner. Something in his too-perfect smile, his slightly too firm handshake, the rehearsed way he complimented my quaint home. He was 32, a real estate broker from Chicago with bleached teeth and custom suits, and eyes that calculated everything they saw. "Dad, we're engaged," Jenna announced last week, bouncing on her toes like she used to at 11. The diamond on her finger caught the light, large and ostentatious. I forced a smile. "That's unexpected. How long have you two been together now?" 4 months, but when you know, you know." Her eyes, so much like her mother's, pleaded for approval. I nodded, swallowing the question. 4 months to know someone who will shape the rest of your life? Tonight marks Bryce's third dinner at my home. He's telling another story about closing some multi-million-dollar property deal while Jenna hangs on every word. "It's fascinating how some people still do mechanical work by hand," Bryce says, glancing around at my modest living room with its worn furniture and the vintage clock I restored last winter. "Kinda cute, really. Like artisanal, right?" I nod, watching how his eyes linger on the hallway leading to my study. "Some things are worth doing slowly," I reply. Jenna jumps in. "Dad rebuilt this entire kitchen himself, you know." "Charming," Bryce says, not looking at the kitchen. "Your dad's quite the handyman. My mother would love that. Darlene's always collecting unique skills for her network." "Is she still traveling?" I ask, noting how Jenna's shoulders tense slightly at the mention of her future mother-in-law. "Always on the move," Bryce replies with practiced smoothness. "Business never sleeps." 1 week later, Jenna hands me an ornate cream-colored envelope. Inside is a wedding invitation with flowing calligraphy, March 15th, 2025, 2 months from now. "Honey, this seems rushed," I say carefully. "He proposed at Traverse Bay last month. It was so romantic, Dad." I frown. "You never mentioned a trip to Traverse Bay." Her eyes shift away. "It was spontaneous. Like this wedding date." I set the invitation down. "Jenna, what's the hurry? Why can't you just be happy for me?" Her voice rises. "You've been cold to Bryce from day one." "I'm concerned because I care," I counter. "Last week he dismissed your dinner suggestion as cute, just like he called my profession cute. That's not respect." "You're jealous," she snaps. "You don't want me to have something of my own." "I gave up 3 promotions to raise you myself," I say quietly. "Everything I've ever done was for you." She grabs the invitation off the coffee table, knocking over a framed photo. The glass shatters. It's the last picture of the 3 of us, taken before her mother died. Later that night, alone in my study, I unlock the fireproof box hidden in my closet. Inside are the documents I received just days after my father's funeral 2 months ago. Franklin Callahan, the quiet, frugal man who taught Jenna to fish and play chess, had left me $10.3 million. 40 years of silent investments, municipal bonds, and property deals, all handled through discreet LLCs. I told no one, not even Jenna. A week later, Bryce shows up at my door unannounced. "Thought we could have some man-to-man time," he says with that perfect smile. Over coffee, his questions drift toward my finances. Your dad owned some properties up north, right? He asks casually. A cabin or two, I answer vaguely. Must have left something behind after he passed, huh? His eyes are calculating. Dad lived simply, I reply. This house. Ever thought about cashing in? Market's hot for charming places like this. I change the subject, but my internal alarms are blaring. That evening my phone rings, a number I don't recognize. Martin, this is Darlene Whitmore, Bryce's mother. Her voice is honey poured over steel. I thought it's time we met. How about lunch next week? I'd love to get to know the man whose daughter is joining our legacy. The way she says legacy sends ice through my veins. That night, I go to my desk and open the lockbox again. I pull out the sealed estate folder and run my hand across the words, Estate of Franklin Callahan. Then I mutter to myself, if this is a game, they have no idea who they're playing with. Weddings are supposed to unite families, but this one felt more like a silent war declaration, served with champagne. Dad, you have to see the venue. Jenna's excitement is genuine as she pulls me through the grand entrance of Riverfront Hall. The place is certainly impressive. Crystal chandeliers hanging over polished marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the frozen Harley River. Not the kind of place I'd expect a mid-size HR professional to afford. Bryce and Darlene are already inside, huddled with the event coordinator. Darlene Whitmore looks exactly as I'd imagined from her voice. Tall, immaculately styled silver blonde hair, clothes that whisper money rather than shout it. When she spots me, her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Martin. Finally. So lovely to meet Jenna's father. Her handshake is brief, her gaze assessing. Over the next hour, I watch the dynamic unfold with growing unease. Jenna points to a floral arrangement she likes, simple white roses with blue accents. Darling, no, Darlene interjects smoothly. The Whitmore wedding tradition is orchids and gold accents. It photographs better. She turns to the coordinator. We'll need the family crest embossed on the napkins, programs, and chairbacks. Jenna's smile falters. I don't think... Trust me, Darlene cuts in. This is what elegance looks like. She glances at me, a flash of challenge in her eyes. Bryce steps in, arm around Jenna's shoulders. Babe, Mom knows what she's doing. Her events are always in the society pages. I don't care about society pages, Jenna murmurs, but she doesn't push back. I notice this pattern repeating throughout the afternoon. Jenna suggests. Darlene overrides. Bryce soothes but sides with his mother. Jenna yields. By the time we leave, the wedding bears almost no trace of my daughter's personality. At lunch the following week, Darlene glances at my Toyota Camry as we walk to the restaurant. It's charming how some people still hold on to sentimental things, like 10-year-old Toyotas. She laughs lightly. Bryce told me you're quite the saver. The way she says saver sounds like a euphemism for something less flattering. I find value in reliability, I reply evenly. As do I, she says with that plastic smile. Though in my experience, the most reliable things are often the newest. Inside the restaurant, I excuse myself to use the restroom and pass the table where Bryce has set up his mobile office, a leather briefcase spilling with papers. A document catches my eye. Post-marital asset distribution agreement with Jenna's name printed at the top. Below it, the letterhead, Carrington and Wolf, Chicago. I memorize the firm name without breaking stride. That evening, I called Doug Landry, an old engineering colleague who moved to Chicago years ago. Carrington and Wolf. Doug's voice crackles over the line. Yeah, they're big-time estate lawyers, specializing in high-value prenups and asset relocations. Not the kind of firm your average Joe hires for a simple will. The next day, I drive to Cedar Rapids and rent a small safety deposit box under the name of an LLC I created online, transferring most of Franklin's paperwork there. I keep just enough documentation at home to maintain the appearance of normalcy. Then I contact Jim Holloway, a local attorney I've known for years. As long as no disclosure happens, the estate is airtight, Jim advises after I explain my concerns without mentioning specifics. But once you mention it, it becomes leverage. I haven't told anyone, I confirm. Good. Keep it that way. 2 weeks fly by in a flurry of wedding preparations. Jenna stops by one evening, looking tired, but trying to hide it. Bryce thinks we should buy a bigger house after the honeymoon, she says, stirring her tea absently. He's looking at properties in Chicago, says it's better for our image. Your image? I keep my voice neutral. What about your job here? She shrugs. He says with his connections, I could get something better there. Her voice lacks conviction. It's just, everything's moving so fast. I choose my words carefully. Honey, are you sure this is what you want? Of course, she answers too quickly. I love him. I don't push further, but I notice she's twisting her engagement ring, a nervous habit she's developed recently. March 15th arrives with unexpected sunshine that does nothing to warm the chill I feel watching Jenna walk down the aisle. She looks beautiful, but somehow diminished in a gown clearly chosen by Darlene, all lace and beading, nothing like the simple elegance my daughter has always preferred. Bryce recites his vows with practiced charm. Jenna reads hers from a card, her voice trembling slightly. At the reception, Darlene rises for her toast, crystal champagne flute catching the light. We're so thrilled to welcome Jenna into our family, she says, voice carrying across the ballroom. Truly the beginning of her elevation. She smiles at me. And of course, we're happy to embrace Martin as well. Family connections are so important, aren't they? During the garter toss, one of Bryce's co-workers shouts over the music, "Hey, toss the inheritance while you're at it." Laughter ripples through the crowd. Bryce laughs loudest, eyes flicking briefly to me. Darlene chuckles, but I catch the calculating look she sends my way. My stomach tightens. That wasn't just a tasteless joke. It was too specific, too deliberate. Near the end of the reception, Jenna finds me at the bar. She's been drinking, not excessively, but enough to loosen the anxious set of her shoulders. Something feels off, Dad, she whispers, leaning close. I can't explain it. What do you mean? I keep my voice low. I walked in on Mom and Bryce whispering in the hallway earlier. They stopped when they saw me. She frowns. They were talking about timing and formalizing before the window closes. When I asked what that meant, Bryce said it was about the photographer's schedule. I squeeze her hand. Try to enjoy tonight. We'll talk more tomorrow. She nods, but her eyes hold a shadow of doubt. The newlyweds leave for their overnight stay at the Lakeside Hotel. The full honeymoon, a trip to Bali, is scheduled for next week. I drive home slowly, wondering if I'm being paranoid or prudent. The house is dark when I arrive, but something feels wrong. The front door is exactly as I left it, locked and secure, but the air inside feels disturbed. I flip on the lights and spot it immediately, a manila envelope on the floor, just inside the door. Someone slipped it under while I was at the wedding. Inside is a notarized letter addressed to Martin Callahan, administrator of the Callahan estate. The note inside reads, "Let's not make this difficult. Cooperate, and we'll all win." No signature, but I don't need one. The game I've been sensing is now in plain view. They know about Franklin's money. Somehow, they know. I sit in my darkened living room, the letter heavy in my hands, and make a decision. If they want to play, I'll play, but by my rules, not theirs. Franklin didn't raise a fool. He raised a strategist. I pull out my phone and take a picture of the letter, then carefully place it back in the envelope. Evidence. The first piece in what I suspect will become a much larger collection. Tomorrow, the real chess match begins. And I've always been good at chess. Sometimes betrayal doesn't arrive with a scream. It shows up quietly, in a suitcase under the rain, in a broken voice that says, "I was wrong." The phone jars me awake at 11:37 p.m. on March 22nd, exactly 1 week after the wedding. I fumble for it in the darkness, squinting at the screen. Jenna's name flashes, and my stomach drops. "Hello? Jenna?" Her breathing comes in ragged gasps. "Dad." Her voice breaks. "I'm at the front porch. Please, come get me. I can't stay here." The call ends abruptly. I'm out of bed and dressed in seconds, grabbing my keys and rushing to the car. The spring drizzle has turned into a steady downpour as I speed through Havenbrook's empty streets toward the upscale Ridgepoint neighborhood, where Bryce and Jenna moved after the wedding. I spot her immediately. A small figure huddled on the curb beneath the glow of a street lamp, 2 large suitcases beside her. Her hair is plastered to her face, mascara running down her cheeks. The grand colonial-style house behind her is dark, not a single light visible. "Get in," I say, jumping out to help with her bags. "Where's Bryce?" "They're not home." Her voice is hollow. Out drinking or scheming. I don't care anymore. I just had to get out. She falls silent as we drive home, staring out the window, occasionally wiping tears with the sleeve of her soaked sweater. I don't push. Some wounds need silence before they can find words. Back at the house, I hand her a towel and make hot tea, while she changes into old pajamas she'd left behind. When she finally sits at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around the steaming mug, she looks both older and younger than her 27 years. "The honeymoon fell through," she begins quietly. Or rather, it was never booked. "Bryce claimed there was an issue with his accounts, a temporary freeze due to a banking error. He promised to reschedule." She takes a shaky breath. "But then he started dodging my questions about money completely. When I suggested we open joint accounts, he got angry, said I was moving too fast." A bitter laugh escapes her. Too fast, after he pushed for a marriage in 2 months. The kitchen clock ticks loudly in the silence that follows. "I found texts," she continues, voice hardening. "Between Bryce and someone named Tamarin, flirty photos, messages, dating back to before our engagement." She looks up, eyes red but dry now. "But that's not even the worst part." She pulls her phone out and shows me a photo she took of a document, divorce papers, already drafted, with Carrington and Wolf's letterhead. They were in his desk. Predated Dad. Like he was planning an exit strategy before we even got married. Her voice breaks again. "He planned to marry me, then dump me, unless he got something he wanted first." My blood runs cold, but I keep my expression neutral. "What do you think he wanted?" She stares into her tea. "Money. They've been asking weird questions. Bryce kept bringing up family trusts, life insurance policies from Grandpa Franklin. Asked if you ever mentioned hidden assets." She looks up suddenly. "Did you? Is there something Grandpa left that I don't know about?" I hesitate but decide to deflect. "Franklin was always careful with his money, but what matters now is protecting you." Jenna nods, not pressing further. "Bryce's mother called me yesterday, asked point blank if I'd accessed any family accounts yet. When I said I didn't know what she meant, she got this look, like I was failing some test. A car engine roars outside, followed by the screech of tires on wet pavement. Headlights sweep across the living room walls as a vehicle pulls up. "That's Bryce's Audi," Jenna whispers, panic rising in her voice. "Stay here," I say firmly. I walk outside calmly, closing the front door behind me. Bryce stumbles out of his car, hair disheveled, designer clothes rumpled. He's been drinking, not falling down drunk, but uninhibited enough for his polished facade to crack. "Where is she?" he demands, striding toward me. Rain drips from his hair, but he doesn't seem to notice. I stand my ground on the front lawn. Go home, Bryce. Jenna needs space. Space? He laughs harshly. Is that what you told her to say? You've been poisoning her against me from day one. He steps closer, jabbing a finger at my chest. I see right through you, old man. My daughter came here upset. That's all I know. Your daughter, he sneers, signed legal documents. He pulls a folded paper from his jacket pocket, waving it in the rain. Property transfer agreements. She agreed to help access your father's estate. I keep my expression neutral. I have no idea what you're talking about. Sure you don't. His smile is ugly now. My mother has friends in probate court. You'll both be ruined if you try to hide assets. It's late, and you've been drinking. Go home before I call the police for trespassing. Something in my tone must register because he takes a step back, though the anger still burns in his eyes. This isn't over. As he turns to leave, he fires one last shot. You think hiding behind your poor man act will work? We know what your father left you. He yanks open his car door. Don't worry. Caitlin has the paperwork ready. Caitlin. Darlene's middle name, which I'd never heard before. The signature on the mysterious note had been C. Whitmore. I watch his taillights disappear down the street, rain soaking through my clothes. Inside, I find Jenna at the window, tears streaming down her face. I heard him, she says. What did he mean about Grandpa's estate? I lead her back to the kitchen, my mind racing. I've been thinking of this as manipulation, a sleazy man targeting my daughter for whatever he could get. But this is something else. The coordinated approach, the legal groundwork, the specific targeting of Franklin's assets. This is a professional con. The words my father spoke from his hospice bed 2 months ago come back to me. They'll come for it, not with guns, but with contracts. Be the man who sees first, strikes last. I didn't understand then. Now I do. Try to get some sleep, I tell Jenna gently. Tomorrow we'll figure this out. Morning comes too quickly. While Jenna sleeps, I drive to Jim Holloway's strip mall law office. I need protection, I tell him bluntly. Not just legal advice, actual protection. Jim leans forward, elbows on his cluttered desk. From what, exactly? I explain the situation, Bryce's accusations, the mysterious note, Jenna's sudden return, everything except the inheritance itself. How do I protect my daughter from a man who's playing the legal system like a chessboard? Jim removes his glasses, polishing them thoughtfully. Then you don't play checkers, Martin. You hire someone who's used to dirty games. He scribbles a name and number on a sticky note. Elena Vasquez, best estate defense attorney in 3 states. Not cheap, but worth every penny. When I return home, another unmarked envelope waits under my front door. My heart pounds as I carefully open it. Inside is a USB drive labeled with 5 simple words. You're not the only one with secrets, Mr. Callahan. I stare at it, feeling the weight of a decision point. Insert it and risk a virus or tracking software? Ignore it and miss potential information? Either way, the message is clear. The opening moves are over. Now, the real game begins. They hunted us in silence, but silence is where I'm most dangerous. I take the USB drive to my workshop, where I keep an old laptop disconnected from any network, a habit from my engineering days when we tested potentially compromised systems. No internet connection means no opportunity for remote access or data transmission. My hands steady as I boot up in incognito mode and insert the drive. No automated programs launch, a small relief. Inside is a folder labeled Callahan Estate, containing several files. First, a scan of Franklin's death certificate, easily obtainable from public records. Next, a list of assets under my father's various LLCs, properties, accounts, portfolio snapshots. Some information is accurate, some wildly off base, suggesting a mix of good intelligence and desperate guesswork. Then I find something that makes my blood run cold. A document titled Assignment of Interest, purportedly transferring the Franklin Callahan estate to Jenna Whitmore. The signature at the bottom is a decent forgery of my handwriting, close enough to fool someone unfamiliar with it, but noticeably off to my eye. Finally, a spreadsheet listing bank accounts allegedly connected to me through various pseudonyms. Some are legitimate accounts I established, others completely fabricated. The message is clear. Bryce and Darlene have launched a sophisticated investigation, likely hiring private data brokers to piece together Franklin's financial footprint. They're building a paper trail based on half-truths and outright forgeries, creating leverage for what comes next. This isn't just harassment. It's the groundwork for a legal attack. I remove the drive and return to the house where Jenna is finally awake, making coffee in the kitchen. Dark circles shadow her eyes, but there's a clarity in them that was missing last night. I need to make some calls, I tell her. Why don't you take a hot shower, and we'll talk after. Once she's upstairs, I dial the number Jim gave me. A firm, no-nonsense voice answers. Vasquez Legal. 20 minutes later, I'm in my car headed to Des Moines to meet with Elena Vasquez, high-stakes estate defense attorney. Her office occupies the top floor of a glass-fronted building downtown. Expensive, but not flashy. Her assistant leads me into a corner office where Elena rises from behind a polished desk. She's around 40, Latina, with intelligent eyes that miss nothing and a handshake that communicates competence without trying to prove anything. No framed golf photos or vanity awards clutter her walls, just law books and a single framed newspaper article about a major estate case victory. Jim Holloway says you're in trouble, she says once we're seated. Tell me everything, and don't edit. I can't help if I don't know what I'm fighting. For the first time, I hold nothing back. I tell her about Franklin's secret fortune, the inheritance, Bryce and Jenna's whirlwind relationship, the wedding, the threatening note, and now the USB with its forged documents. Elena listens without interruption, occasionally making notes in a leather-bound notebook. When I finish, she sets down her pen. You're not just in a family dispute, Mr. Callahan. You're the target of a long-game con. What do we do? First, we protect the estate. She taps her pen against the notebook. I'm filing a protective petition immediately to prevent any third-party interference with the Franklin Callahan estate. Then we're demanding documentation from Carrington and Wolf for any pre- or post-nuptial agreements they've drafted involving your daughter. She looks up sharply. They'll try to get Jenna to sign something soon, some document that gives them access through her. Tell her to sign nothing, not even a birthday card, without showing you first. I need to go further, I say quietly. I need to know who I'm really dealing with. Elena studies me for a moment, then picks up her phone. Marcus, it's Elena. I have someone you need to meet. She hangs up and writes an address on a card. 4 o'clock today. Don't be late. At precisely 4 p.m., I knock on the door of a nondescript office in a converted warehouse. A deep voice calls, "It's open." Inside, a man in his early 50s stands by a window, watching the street below. He's solidly built, with close-cropped salt-and-pepper hair and eyes that have seen too much. His casual attire, jeans and a button-down shirt, can't disguise the alertness in his posture. "Marcus Reyes," he says simply, offering a hand. "Elena says you have a problem." Over the next hour, I explain my situation again. Marcus listens more actively than Elena did, interrupting occasionally with pointed questions about dates, names, and specific wording from documents. "This is organized," he confirms when I finish. "Darlene's the key. Bryce doesn't have the discipline for a long con. He's the closer, not the architect." He opens a laptop. "My retainer is $10,000, cash or cryptocurrency only, through this LLC. Nothing traceable to your real name." I hesitate only briefly before transferring the funds from one of my anonymous accounts. Marcus nods, satisfied. I specialize in 3 things, he explains: financial forensics, notary tracking, and asset protection cases involving inheritance manipulation. I was FBI until I wasn't. Now I help people like you who find themselves in the crosshairs of sophisticated predators. What's your first step? I'll track Darlene's movements, follow the paper trail, and identify their network. They won't be working alone. And Mr. Callahan? His expression hardens. These people won't stop at legal means. Secure your home. Change your routines. Trust no one who suddenly appears in your life. Back at the house, I find Jenna in the living room watching old home videos. On screen, Franklin is teaching 8-year-old Jenna to play chess on the porch. In the end game, my father's voice crackles through the speakers. You don't block, you bait. Jenna pauses the video and looks up at me, her eyes red but determined. I want to help, Dad. I was blind, but I'm not weak. Are you sure? These people used me, she finishes firmly. Nobody does that without consequences. Over the next few days, Jenna becomes my unexpected ally. She combs through her phone, pulling old texts and emails from Bryce, screenshots of suspicious conversations, voicemails from Darlene about legacy preparation meetings. She called me 3 times the week before the wedding, Jenna explains, forwarding the voicemails to my phone. Listen to how she keeps mentioning paperwork to secure your future. I thought she meant a prenup, but now. Meanwhile, Elena's legal machinery grinds into motion. She files protective orders on Franklin's estate and formally requests documentation from Carrington and Wolfe. Their initial response is predictable: denial of any impropriety and minimal document production. 3 days later, Marcus sends his first report, a series of encrypted photographs showing Darlene visiting a notary in Omaha, filing paperwork that Marcus identifies as an attempt to secure pre-inheritance shares using Jenna's maiden name without consent. The footage clearly shows Darlene paying cash and using documents with Jenna's information. This is textbook fraud, Elena confirms when I forward the evidence. We've got her on identity theft at minimum. I'm preparing a preliminary case. The next revelation comes from Marcus's deep dive into Bryce's finances. Far from the successful broker he portrayed himself to be, Bryce is drowning in personal debt. Several of his claimed closed deals were fabricated to attract investors. 3 civil lawsuits are pending against him in Cook County for misrepresentation. He's desperate, Marcus explains over an encrypted call. His creditors are closing in. He needs a big score, and fast. Marrying Jenna was his Hail Mary, access to the Callahan fortune through spousal rights. The motive crystallizes in my mind. This wasn't just opportunism. It was calculated survival. Late that night, Jenna and I sit at the kitchen table, cups of tea growing cold between us. Do you think he ever loved me? She asks quietly. I consider lying, then decide against it. I think he loved the idea of you, what you represented, security, legitimacy, access. But people like Bryce don't love people. They love what people can give them. She nods slowly. I keep asking myself how I missed the signs. Was I that blind? You saw what you wanted to see, I say gently. We all do sometimes. We sit in comfortable silence for a while, father and daughter united again, this time against a common enemy. My phone vibrates with a text from Marcus. I found something. Meet me tomorrow. Come alone. I stare at the message, heart racing with anticipation. Whatever Marcus discovered could be the key to ending this, to protecting Jenna, Franklin's legacy, and our future. I look up at my daughter, stronger now, eyes clear and determined. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Bryce and Darlene thought they were targeting an easy mark, a retiring widower with a naive daughter. They have no idea who they're really dealing with. They thought the courtroom would be their stage, but they never expected we'd turn the lights on before they were ready. The downtown Havenbrook parking garage at 6 a.m. is nearly empty, just a few early-shift hospital workers' cars scattered across the concrete expanse. I park in the far corner as instructed and wait, engine off, watching the entrance ramp through my rearview mirror. Precisely at 6:15, Marcus's nondescript gray sedan appears. He parks 3 spaces away, then signals me to join him. Inside his car, the windows are tinted just enough to obscure our faces from casual observation. "I've been following the money," Marcus says without preamble, handing me a thick manila folder. "What I found explains everything." I open the folder to find a comprehensive background report on Bryce Whitmore, his fake appraisals on real estate deals, lawsuit filings from 3 former clients alleging fraud, documentation of an offshore account registered under B. Whitestone Holdings in the Cayman Islands. "Turn to page 17, Marcus directs. It's a transcript of a conversation, time-stamped 2 days ago. Location: outside a notary office in Des Moines. Bryce: "The old man's money is buried under LLCs. We just need Jenna to give us access before they seal it. Darlene: "Don't let her back out. Make her sign. Then walk." "How did you get this?" I ask, though I'm not sure I want to know. Marcus taps the dashboard. "They had their conversation 6 feet from my parked car. Amazing what people will say when they think no one's listening." He hands me a small USB recorder. Voice authentication is 98% matched to samples from publicly available videos of Bryce's real estate seminars. "This is enough. For court." Marcus shrugs. "Maybe, maybe not. For leverage? Absolutely. There's more. Keep reading." The final document in the folder is a bank statement showing a recent transfer of $50,000 from Darlene's personal account to someone named Raymond Finch at Carrington & Wolff. "Raymond Finch specializes in contested estates," Marcus explains. "He's their legal muscle, preparing to file motions alleging you've hidden assets from Jenna, positioning Bryce as the concerned husband trying to protect his wife's interests." His mouth twists in disgust. "It's clever. They're using your secrecy against you, claiming you've defrauded your own daughter." I close the folder, my resolve hardening. We need to move faster than they expect. Later that morning, I deliver the folder to Elena Vasquez. She reviews the contents, her expression growing grimmer with each page. "This is gold," she says finally. "Normally I'd advise caution, building a case slowly, but they're clearly accelerating their timeline." She glances at her calendar. "I can get us on Judge Dunham's docket next Tuesday. She's fair but tough, doesn't tolerate manipulative tactics." "Tuesday? That's 6 days away." "Trust me, that's lightning speed in the court system." Elena starts typing rapidly on her computer. "I'm filing for fraudulent misrepresentation in marriage, subpoenaing Carrington & Wolff for all communications with Darlene and Bryce, and requesting a protective injunction on the entire Franklin Callahan estate." She slides a document across her desk. "Sign this affidavit, stating you have sole rights to the inheritance, and that Jenna was never a designated beneficiary. It shields her from their legal targeting." Will this work? It closes their easiest avenue of attack. They can't claim to be recovering assets for Jenna if Jenna has no legal claim to begin with. Elena's eyes narrow. "We're going to hit them so hard, and so fast, they won't have time to fabricate more evidence." The next 5 days pass in a blur of preparation. Jenna, finding strength I didn't know she possessed, enrolls in therapy and meticulously documents every interaction with Bryce and Darlene, creating a comprehensive marriage timeline with supporting evidence. One evening, while sorting through old photos, she finds a picture of herself with Franklin, a chessboard between them. On the back, in my father's spidery handwriting, "The best move is the one they don't see coming." Elena preps Jenna for testimony, conducting brutal mock cross-examinations to prepare her for Bryce's lawyers. I write my own witness statement, measured, precise, and damning. The pieces are falling into place. Tuesday arrives with unseasonable warmth. The Havenbrook County Courthouse steps are bathed in spring sunshine as we ascend, Elena leading our small procession with confident strides. A few local reporters hover near the entrance. Word of the high-profile civil fraud claims has leaked. Courtroom 3 is already half full when we enter. Elena directs us to the plaintiff's table while she confers with the clerk. I scan the room, spotting Bryce and Darlene at the defendant's table. Bryce maintains his smug expression, occasionally whispering to a sharp-suited attorney. Darlene, dressed in designer black, sits ramrod straight, her face a mask of controlled indignation. The bailiff's voice cuts through the murmurs. All rise. The Honorable Judge Patricia Dunham presiding. Judge Dunham is a severe-looking woman in her 60s, with silver hair cropped close to her scalp and reading glasses perched on her nose. She surveys the courtroom with practiced efficiency before nodding to the clerk. Callahan v. Whitmore, case number CV-25-734, emergency hearing regarding claims of fraudulent misrepresentation and petition for protective order. Are all parties present? Elena rises. Yes, Your Honor. Elena Vasquez representing Martin Callahan and Jenna Callahan. Bryce's attorney stands. Jonathan Warner for the defendants, Your Honor. Very well. Judge Dunham shuffles papers. Ms. Vasquez, as the moving party, you may begin. Elena approaches the bench, her voice clear and measured as she outlines our case. The whirlwind marriage, the forged documents, the recorded conversation revealing their true intentions. She submits Marcus's evidence folder as Exhibit A, along with my affidavit regarding the inheritance. Warner counters with Bryce's defense strategy, exactly as Marcus predicted. He portrays Jenna as mentally unstable, claiming she abandoned the marriage without cause. He tries to paint me as a manipulative father hiding assets and controlling my adult daughter. Your Honor, Warner says smoothly, we have evidence that Mr. Callahan has systematically concealed his father's substantial estate, depriving Mrs. Whitmore of her rightful inheritance. He attempts to submit the forged property transfer document, but Elena is ready. Objection, Your Honor. That document is a forgery, as our handwriting expert will testify. Furthermore, we have evidence that Mrs. Darlene Whitmore impersonated Jenna Callahan at a filing office in Omaha. Judge Dunham's eyebrows rise. Serious allegations, Counselor. Proceed. Elena methodically dismantles their arguments. She submits the audio recording of Bryce and Darlene discussing their plans to flip the inheritance. She presents security camera footage showing Darlene at the Omaha notary office. Claiming to be Jenna, she introduces bank records documenting the $50,000 payment to Raymond Finch. Our first witness, the notary from Omaha, testifies that Darlene paid him $5,000 in cash to stamp documents without proper identification verification. Next, a bank officer confirms that Darlene attempted to access Franklin Callahan's accounts using outdated credentials and falsified authorization forms. The final blow comes when Elena introduces emails from Carrington and Wolf, obtained through subpoena, showing Darlene pushing them to accelerate access to the estate, using marital leverage. Throughout it all, I watch Bryce's composure gradually crumble. His confident smirk gives way to nervous glances at his attorney. Darlene remains stone-faced, but her knuckles whiten as she grips the edge of the table. When Elena calls Jenna to testify, my daughter walks to the stand with quiet dignity. She recounts meeting Bryce, his pressured proposal, and the discoveries that led to her fleeing their home. Her voice remains steady, even when Warner attempts to portray her as unstable and financially motivated. Did you ever discuss your grandfather's estate with Mr. Whitmore? Elena asks. He brought it up constantly, Jenna replies. At first, It seemed like casual interest, but after we were married, the questions became more insistent. He wanted account numbers, lawyer names, property locations. Warner's cross-examination grows increasingly desperate. When he suggests Jenna married Bryce for his connections, Elena produces Bryce's bank statements showing his accounts were nearly empty at the time of the wedding. Finally, Bryce himself takes the stand. Under Elena's methodical questioning, his carefully constructed facade begins to fracture. When she plays the recording of his conversation with Darlene, his composure shatters completely. "She was supposed to give us access," he shouts, jabbing a finger toward Jenna. "It's not theft if she's my wife." The courtroom falls silent. Judge Dunham stares at Bryce over her glasses, expression unreadable. Even Warner looks stunned by his client's outburst. After a brief recess, Judge Dunham delivers her ruling. Based on the preponderance of evidence presented, this court grants the petition for immediate dissolution of marriage between Jenna Callahan and Bryce Whitmore on grounds of fraudulent misrepresentation. Furthermore, the court issues a complete denial of any asset claims by either defendant against the Callahan estate. She removes her glasses, fixing Bryce and Darlene with a stern gaze. "I am referring both defendants for criminal investigation on charges of fraud, impersonation, and conspiracy. Restraining orders are hereby issued against both defendants, prohibiting contact with either plaintiff." She bangs her gavel. Court is adjourned. Relief washes over me as Jenna squeezes my hand under the table. Outside the courtroom, reporters cluster, but Elena skillfully steers us toward a private exit. We're almost to the parking lot when Darlene's voice cuts through the air behind us. "This isn't over." Her carefully modulated tone has given way to something raw and venomous. "You think your daughter's clean? We know what Franklin really did. We'll bury you in the press." I turn to Elena and say quietly, "Then it's time I told Jenna everything." The only way to end a legacy of silence is to speak first. Back home, with the courthouse behind us, and evening settling over Heavenbrook, I lead Jenna to my study. The time for half-truths has passed. I unlock the fireproof box I've kept hidden all these months and spread its contents across my desk. "This is everything," I tell her. "The full truth." Jenna's eyes widen as she examines the documents one by one. The original signed will, property deeds, investment account statements, all totaling over $10.3 million. She picks up a sealed envelope marked "For Martin" in Franklin's handwriting. "You should read it," I say softly. She opens the letter carefully, unfolding the pages covered in my father's spidery script. Her eyes fill with tears as she reads aloud. "Martin, my son, if you're reading this, I've finally moved on. The money never mattered much to me. It was just a game at first, then a habit, then a legacy I wasn't sure how to share. Tell Jenna when it's safe. Give her strength, not wealth. The money is the shield, not the sword." Jenna looks up, tears streaming down her face. "All this time, you knew? You let Bryce and Darlene target you, and you never said a word." "I was protecting you," I explain. "If you'd known about the money while you were with Bryce." "I would have told him," she finishes, understanding dawning in her eyes. "They would have taken everything." We spend the evening going through photo albums and Franklin's handwritten investment notes. In one album, Jenna finds a childhood drawing of herself playing chess with Franklin, her childish handwriting scrawled across the bottom. "You win, by patience." "He never wanted the money to change you," I say. "That's why I waited." She nods, understanding at last. "Is that why you never touched it yourself? You lived so simply, worked so hard. Money changes people. Your mother and I agreed long ago to live within our means, to teach you the value of work." I smile faintly. "Besides, Franklin was still figuring things out himself. He didn't tell me about any of this until the last few months of his life." The aftermath unfolds over the following weeks with surprising swiftness. Bryce is indicted for fraud, perjury, and financial misrepresentation. His real estate license is revoked after an emergency hearing. Darlene faces investigation by the Iowa Department of Revenue for using fake business identifications and notary fraud. Local papers pick up the story. Mother-son real estate duo charged in estate scam. Darlene's consulting firm collapses as clients distance themselves from the scandal. Jenna surprises me one morning with a business proposal. "I don't want the money directly," she explains, spreading brochures across the kitchen table. "I want to use it for something meaningful." Her idea, the Franklin Initiative, a nonprofit helping women escape manipulative relationships with legal and emotional support. "Grandpa protected us through his quiet planning," she says, eyes bright with purpose. "I want to protect others the same way." I couldn't be prouder. My own revenge is quieter, more calculated. I never speak to the press or publicly gloat. Instead, I fund a series of anonymous legal cases against corrupt real estate firms tied to Bryce's network. 5 companies shut down over 6 months. I personally finance legal defenses for 2 elderly families scammed by Darlene years earlier. 6 months after the trial, Jenna and I visit Franklin's grave together. The summer sun warms the simple headstone as we place a chess piece, a queen, at its base. "He played the long game," Jenna says softly. "And we won." I shake my head. It was never about winning. It was about protecting the board. Life moves forward. Jenna takes a small portion of the inheritance and opens a financial consulting firm specifically for young women in Havenbrook. I begin writing a book about Franklin's life and quiet legacy, titling it The Invisible Fortress. In our living room, a new photo stands in a place of honor. Jenna, myself, and Franklin, digitally restored from old photographs and placed together in a single frame. The glass isn't cracked anymore. The picture isn't broken. Sometimes revenge isn't fire and fury. Sometimes it's silence, strategy, and surviving long enough to see the wrong people fall by their own design. My father understood that. Now, so do we. As Jenna and I sit on the porch one evening, watching fireflies rise over the lawn, she asks, "What would Grandpa think of all this?" I consider the question, remembering Franklin's quiet strength, his patient wisdom. "He'd say we played well," I answer finally. "But more importantly, he'd be glad we remembered what really matters." She nods, understanding perfectly. In the end, it wasn't about the money at all. It was about family, truth, and the quiet power of playing the long game. The inheritance was never the real legacy. We were,